invitation to anyone from Eddy County or elsewhere to come and be at that planning commission meeting. And those of you that were there, you kind of know that it was kind of pirated by some Eddy County residents. And at least from my perspective, I don't think there was a really good opportunity for the Planning Commission to hear from Wells County people, because the couple of folks from Eddy County kind of took over a lot of the meeting.
Yep.
And so that, from my perspective, that was kind of unfortunate. And had I been sitting on the other side of the table, it would have been difficult, I think, for me, if I was on that side of the table, to make a really good informed decision, trying to understand what my constituents were concerned about, because there was such a loud voice from people outside of the county. And so that was kind of a concern for us. We had a landowner meeting last night and talked about where we've been, where we're going in terms of our development of the project, kind of these couple of hurdles that we're dealing with right now. And we had several landowners last night just prepare statements of support. And I'm going to leave these with Dan along with my business card, so you can take a look at those. But this is obviously a major concern for us. And so much so that our CEO, Paul White, who's here with us today, he had a medical procedure that was scheduled for this time, and he postponed that to be here with us today. So I'd like to invite Paul up, and he'd like to share with you a little bit as well about, come on, Paul, some of our concerns and some of our hopes for the process moving forward. So, morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Jim.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I wanted to, I'm the CEO of PRC Wind. I'm here with colleagues and community members from the project that are working to bring economic development to the county and the community. There's more than 100 families that are invested in the Flickertail project. I'd like to share a little bit about the origins briefly, and then cut to the chase on what I've heard the discussion is, and hopefully help provide a path forward. Wells and Eddy residents initiated an effort to strengthen the local economy almost 20 years back. They worked together and openly and with neighbors to research development opportunities. They chose to develop a wind energy project because it's proven safe, good for your constituents, and good for American energy independence. 7 years ago, the Wells Eddy Group asked PRC Wind, our company, to join their effort to complete their mission. They chose PRC because we specialize in designing projects that work well for farmers and ranchers and neighbors. It's what we do as a company. Last year, Minn Kota Power Cooperative pursued opportunities to meet its needs for more power to complement and support its coal-fired generation. Minn Kota is working closely with the Trump administration to maintain its coal-fired power generation in conjunction with clean, reliable wind energy. Minn Kota selected the Flickertail project for the Minn Kota portfolio, specifically because of how the project was developed by the community and for the community. Please Google if you're interested in anything about that. You can see information from Minn Kota if you Google Minn Kota Flickertail. You can see what they've published about that. So where are we at now? The project has come this far. We're at the point of permitting, going through a rigorous permit process at the townships, county, and state level. The project is designed to maximize benefits to the community while complying with all local, state, and federal regulations. In this last year, individuals have shown up with an apparent agenda, or intended or not, to take away the rights of its neighbors, to stop this economic development. They're using an approach of changing the rules that will eliminate property rights for hundreds of families by requiring extraordinary setbacks from homes. Almost all of the families expecting these benefits in Wells County will lose them due to a 1 mile setback. I'm providing this map shows you a 1 mile setback. I'd be happy to pass it around. We can provide it in a digital form. I apologize, I don't have handouts, but I think I would. This will illustrate, if you look at Wells County, that almost all the turbines are lost with a 1 mile setback. If you do change an ordinance, if you need to change your ordinance, which, by the way, just reminding you that it's consistent with tried and true proven ordinances around the country at states and counties, where a 1/4 mile is a good standard to protect health and safety. If you do need to change that ordinance to quadruple the tried and true protections that are already there, you will be successfully taking property rights from people who have been openly and thoughtfully working to better your county for almost 20 years, because a few people don't want to see it. If you must change the current rules, we highly recommend that you restrict your changes to 1/2 mile from occupied homes. If you do this, some families will lose their benefits that they had been expecting. But we believe we can still make the project work for your community at that level. Those are my remarks. We've done the analysis. We believe we can work with a 1/2 mile if you choose to make a decision today. Beyond that, it becomes not only wiping out the Wells County, but we expect that Eddy will follow and the project will be in jeopardy. Those are my remarks. Thank you for your service to the community. I know it's difficult, a hard job when you have opposing pressures and so forth. We will be here to answer questions. There is one additional person that's here that's not from our company, and it's not from the local community. There's an individual from Burleigh County who is a township supervisor there, who has participated in the regulation of the wind facilities and the economic development that came from it. And I know he has turbines around where he lives. He could speak to you. He's available. His name is Randy Schaefer. And Randy, if you could raise your hand. Randy is here, available to you as well.
I guess I'll start. I have one question. I'm all for economic development. We've been blasted with bills like crazy here. We need other sources of income. What kind of benefit will Wells County receive from this?
The overall benefit from the project is between $1 and $2 million a year of tax revenue that flows through the state and then is delivered to the county, and a lot of that goes to the townships to support schools and so forth. In addition to that, you could triple that when you include the direct payments to landowners associated with the project. The portion of that revenue that would be in Wells County would be the portion of turbines. Tim?
Which is probably,
I have it right here.
probably 20%-ish.
Here's the line.
Yep.
Around 20%.
Yeah, I would say around 20% of the total turbines.
So 20% of,
What is the total of turbines?
89. You speak to it, please.
Yep, 89. with like 15 of them over here. So,
Joint.
yeah.
One more, a mile setback,
Answer the one first.
huh, okay, well, whatever.
Your original line of thought there, are you done with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Out of them 90 turbines, or 90 wind towers, a mile setback with variance, how many of them are affected in this whole project as a mile setback?
Well, that was my first
Yeah.
question. You
With
need to,
variance.
you need to explain that map a little bit.
So this
Yeah.
map here, and I'll just cover my face up, right, Paul? So this map shows the mile setback, and we have to use every residential building, whether it's currently occupied or not, right? So there were some comments that there are only maybe 3 in the Wells County, that are, in Wells County at least, 3 residences
This is well.
that are occupied, but we have to use all the residents. So that shows you,
I want a picture of it.
yeah, that shows you what's going to happen. For Wells County, it takes almost every turbine location
Yeah.
out of the
Can I
equation.
clarify
Okay.
that? So what's on this map is the red X's are homes,
Oh, okay, that
and
helps.
then the
Yep.
circle is a 1 mile setback from the
Okay.
homes. So the red dots are the turbines that are eliminated by the 1 mile setback.
And you said
That-
the red X's occupied or unoccupied
Occupied or unoccupied, yeah.
have to be considered.
We have to, there has been case law that says a house that's not currently occupied still has to be considered because it could be occupied, even if it's a dump today. Somebody
Down
could
the
buy
road.
it, fix it up,
The red
and now
Xs.
they're closer than, yeah, absolutely.
That's-
So when the word with variance comes into play, doesn't that give you some leeway to play the game?
Why can't you go visit with the people and
Yeah.
get a mile with a variance to work?
So,
You guys as a company.
we can and we will, regardless. Yeah, absolutely.
What you're suggesting is that a neighbor wants to do something on their property, and they should go to a neighbor a mile away and ask them for permission, and ask, how much should I pay you? Are you
No,
speaking?
get your variance figured out.
Oh,
Well, that's what he's
a
talking
fixed amount. So if there was a fixed payment to enable the 1 mile away folks to earn some revenue, we're happy to work with you to find a way to make sure that folks get revenue. But if you're suggesting that the folks in Wells County that are expecting to receive these benefits should now have to go to any homeowner within a mile to ask for permission.
You might have to.
Wouldn't that be a gesture of good neighbor policy?
Well, since when is that working?
Good point.
It would be a great gesture. How would you, are you speaking, my only question to that is, are you suggesting there be some kind of fee? I noticed in your ordinance, there's a statement that compensation for facilities shall be no less than a certain amount. If this was construed in that manner, we could potentially work on something like that. We would support that. We like that. Everybody needs to win. We very much agree with that approach. But we understand the ordinance the way it's written to be a open checkbook and uncertainty where a neighbor goes to someone that's 9/10 of a mile away and says, like, could I please do this? What are you going to charge me? That dynamic does not work. I promise you.
Well,
We have attempted, and we found that it's very difficult. If the county were to establish a reasonable, there should be some reasonable compensation, and it was a reasonable number that doesn't crater the opportunity to put turbines there, then that could be a vehicle. I have to support that.
There's an old saying, good fences make good neighbors. Okay, I'm gonna use an example. if you have two neighbors, one's got good fences, one don't, and this goes on for a few years, and it's happened all over. And the one that's got the good fences is trying to keep everything normal. And so my concern in this deal is, you know, after they've had the problem, they go after it and they check it out. Why can't you make the fences before they get bad? And so what I'm saying is, in this mile variance, or mile with variance, you are going way ahead of the curve and dealing with a problem that's gonna get to be a problem. I would think that you would want to do that. Is that I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from.
Well, I think so. And for, I guess what I would make sure we're clear on is we've spent 7 years working with the community in that way. We've pulled away as far as we can from neighbors that don't want to see it. We've honored the rules that are in place while we've worked through that design process. So we have a project that complies with all regulations and pulls away from folks that haven't wanted to see it. So in our mind, we're there. Now the rules are changing at a moment where we don't have room to adjust.
Okay.
So,
Well, think of all the federal agencies that got the rules changed. They had to adjust.
yeah. So
This happens.
It happens, and what's at stake is the project. I mean, I'm not here to argue or fight.
No, I'm just
want
asking
you to
questions.
understand the impact.
I'm going to ask an overly simplistic question. You have a footprint of where you want to place these towers, okay? Every one of those is placed on land that's owned by someone. Where they're being placed right now, does any landowner where that project sits have a problem with you?
I would say no. Yeah.
Short answer,
Yeah.
you answered exactly.
We have removed towers where
Yep.
where there was a change of.
Yeah, we've had meetings with every single landowner that's gonna get any type of infrastructure, and so they're all aware of exactly what the plan's gonna look like,
And they've signed off.
and they've signed off on it, yeah.
I would
It all boils down to money.
invite you to
Yeah,
ask,
it goes down to money, but here's the thing, who's gonna fix the roads as you guys haul this out? And then when the game starts, and just one, I'm not done. Okay, we know technology is going fast. These things could be obsolete in 10 years, easy. Could very easily happen. Who's gonna fix the mess? Who's gonna clean it up?
Brian, they have a bond for that.
Okay, is that bond enough to clean the whole thing up, or is that just bond enough for one or two towers? That's my question.
So those are really good questions. And it's something that the industry has really matured
Okay.
and learned how to create road use agreements with the counties, with the county engineer, that require, essentially, if you talk to the gentleman, the supervisor back there, he'll explain how they have the best roads in the neighborhood because they have the wind project that maintains those roads and so forth. There are protections in place, not only for the management of the project, but also the decommissioning and removal of the project in a responsible way. That is all locked in before we put the shovel in the ground in the beginning.
I have many friends in different states, and I ask questions in visiting with stuff I do with business. And when I say wind towers, they said run as hard as you can and stay away from them. Why do I hear that? I'm just asking a simple question. I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not trying to be mean. I want to know why I hear that.
I don't know who they are, but my guess would be it was they had a bad experience of some sort early on in the industry. I can tell you that the industry and the state rules and the federal rules and the local rules are very mature. The industry, I started in the industry in 1990. The rules were being written. Minnesota was the first state outside of California to begin working on state rules. All the states have now joined, and there are well-established safety rules, including the bonding, the protection for decommissioning. So safety, health, and economic protections are all well-established. You may be hearing about an experience from early days or something, somebody's individual experience, can't comment on that. I can tell you that the industry as a whole, the standards that are there, including North Dakota. North Dakota has well-established, well-thought-out. It's not a cakewalk for us to go through the state process. It's very, frankly, that is, you have all the protection you need at the state level. When I compare that with other states, we have a very strong process in North Dakota. The turbine technology itself, to the question about it being obsolete, I can tell you that the maturing of the industry since in the 30 years I've been in the wind industry, the technology has matured, gotten to a point where it is treated essentially as conventional generation equipment by utility companies. When in the early days in the industry when I got in, utilities didn't want to be involved in it because it was a new technology. Today, utilities want to own it. They don't want to stand by. They recognize that there's an opportunity to own an asset and operate it. So most utilities lean in and want to own. The technology for onshore wind, which this is, what we're proposing here is, in my professional judgment, this is what you will see for the foreseeable future. And in 30 years, if the community wants it, again, we are working under leases that are for a short period of time. We don't have forever rights here. So when we get to the end of the project, when these turbines will be aged and the moving parts are worn, there's an opportunity to go two directions. One, which usually is the preferred, is can we repower this project? Can we reinvest in renewing the equipment? And with this size technology for onshore wind, things are solving and flattening out that the size equipment we're putting here is going to be around a long time. That creates an opportunity to simply replace the moving parts, that head on top, so you don't have to do anything else. It's a much more limited operation to just repower in that manner. Sometimes we call it repower light. So that might be an opportunity in the future. But if the landowners and the community say, no, we're done, we've seen it, we understand it, then option two is the ripcord. The project will be decommissioned, according to the state permit that requires that, and removed, and the land is put back to the state that it was in prior to the operation.
You never answered my question on how many towers are going to be affected by this, and I think that was said in New Rockford at your meeting last night.
Yeah.
I think it was said, and it was 30 of them that would be with that mile setback problem. I think that got answered at New Rockford last night.
Yes.
In your meetings.
So in Wells County, there are 15 turbines on our permit layout. All but 2 of them will be gone with a mile setback. With a half-mile setback, and that's what this map is, but with a half-mile setback, there's only 1 that will fall within that zone, and we have enough buildable area to just move it over here a little bit. So with a half-mile setback, we could effectively build all of them still. Okay, yeah, we do have room to move. This is just right here. This one here, we can move this one. And so we could build all of it with a half-mile setback.
Right, but I mean,
and then
you still could do them with a mile with a variance if you went and talked to the people, I fully believe.
Right.
And one other thing that you might consider is because we do want to talk to these people, these ones that have concerns. Some of them we've heard they don't think that we have given them ample opportunity to express their concerns, and that might be a warranted concern that they have. We're not denying that. So it might even behoove the board to just kind of delay consideration. Let us talk to these people that are concerned, these ones that have raised issues. See if there's a solution that between what the board might recommend, as Paul was suggesting, if we come to a place where there are some minimum payments for some of these folks, so that it's not just an open checkbook, as we talk to them, maybe we can all get back together at some time in the next month or two. Maybe there's a solution to this problem that we're not thinking about, that you're not thinking about, that the Planning Commission hasn't considered, that when we all come together and start talking about how we can resolve this thing, maybe there's a solution that works for everybody that we're just not thinking about right now, and then we can, you know, consider that option as
How
well.
long does this zoning have to be, how long have you got, if you guys want to start, how long do we have before we get our zoning figured out?
Well,
2
we want
months,
to-
3 months?
Yeah, so we want to make permit applications, you know, as soon as we're able to do so. Yeah, within the next month, we want to make permit applications, okay? So our understanding is that, obviously, once the permits are approved, you know, then those permits are approved based on the zoning that's in place at the time the permits are approved, okay? Not at the time that we make application, but at the time that the permits are approved. So if we make application, let's just say we make application to the townships that we need to apply to, and then to the county by the end of this month, by the end of May. And we have the month of May to talk to these affected landowners, and we come back together at next month's board meeting, or a special meeting that might be called, so we have more time specifically to discuss this, however you choose to do it. That would certainly be prior to permits being approved, right, by the county. So even delaying action for a month, because there are some valid questions that you've raised, Boone, that you've raised, there are some valid questions, and there may be, again, answers out there that we're just not considering, right? And so if we were to make permit application by the end of the month, and then discuss this again the beginning of next month, we won't be in a situation where the permits have already been approved, and, you know, we are bound by the ordinances as they are today, right? So in our perspective, as Paul suggested, we could live with a half a mile. If you wanted to consider just delaying consideration for a month, we think that, you know, there may be some solutions that we could bring back then as well. It may still be exactly where we're at, but maybe there's something different that we might garner from these landowners that might make it work for all of us.
I do have a concern. And I'm glad you came today and explained things. But the one concern I really have is your hand had to be forced before you would tell the other alternatives that are possible. So what I'm curious about is, if you're willing to do that until you have to wait till your hand is forced, when else will your hand have to be forced to keep compliance?
Well,
Can I speak to
yeah,
that?
absolutely.
You know, I don't know if that's, I hear your perspective, but that's not really what has happened here. Our normal process is to understand the regulations that are in place, and then focus working with the community to design a project in that manner. We have been available. Tim is new to the project. We have been available to talk with community. There's more we can share about that process, but we have been available, and we've been designing to the rules that we knew that were there. When the hand is forced, in our mind, is we work with the standards that exist, we submit permits. There becomes a deliberation about looking at the permit application. At that moment, we engage in an open public dialogue with community, and the community that notifies, making sure everybody can come and see what is on the table. That's normally where we have these conversations. Having the rules change at the last minute specifically to stop a project is a new one. I've never seen anything like that. So
Okay, now, let me understand. I'm going to try to get you to understand where I'm coming from.
okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. When I visit with the other side of the coin, I'm as hard on them as I am you, and here's why. I want to put enough pressure to find out what's cooking. Do you understand what I mean by that? I'm not on anybody's side here. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. That's why I'm asking the questions I am.
Yeah.
And I will ask the other people that are concerned, if I get confronted with, I will ask them a lot of questions too.
Thank you.
That's our job, that's my job
Yeah.
as